It's more conversation time. It's also more Adrienne Lawrence. And this time I am joined by the founder of Voices of Healthcare Action. That's Laura Packard. Thanks for joining us, Laura.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, so as we near the midterms, the Republicans they're spouting all sorts of stuff, including this commitment to America agenda, which seems to include healthcare. What's your take on it?
Well, they're promising all kinds of things, such as listening to doctors, which I find interesting considering all of these abortion bans that have been passed without listening to doctors. And they promise lower costs, which I also find interesting, given that not a single Republican voted for the Inflation Reduction Act, which is going to be lowering drug costs for seniors, as well as keeping health insurance premiums lower for people on the Affordable Care Act. So they are spouting all kinds of words, but when it comes to their actions, they're nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, it sounds kind of GOP general and how they do business. But what is specific about the commitment to America agenda that really gives you pause? And we know that they've definitely been trying to dismantle the Affordable Care Act for some time now, but it almost seems like, is this something that they are potentially going to do under the guise of this commitment to America?
Well, they're not talking about it publicly anymore, but there is a court case in Texas, of course, going on right now that threatens some of the protections that we've all taken for granted the past few years to be able to get no cost preventative care, such as mammograms and a regular checkup with your doctor for free. This court case could threaten all those things, and it's all the usual suspects that are pushing these court cases. So they may not be talking publicly about their attacks on our care, but they're still happening.
Absolutely, and I know you had your own fight with cancer and you ended up having to fight your US Senator and president to keep your health insurance.
Yes, 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And the day after my first chemotherapy appointment, Republicans in the US House voted to dismantle the Affordable Care Act, which was keeping me alive. And then they threw a big party about it. So while I was going through treatment throughout 2017, I would go to chemo and then go to a protest. I would go to radiation and then go try and talk to my US Senator. And unfortunately, I was thrown out of that event.
Yikes, wow. And I'm sure that did not feel good whatsoever, knowing that this is the care that is saving you and keeping you alive. Yet at the same time, so many members of Congress are trying to eliminate it, even though it serves the people and helps advance the people, especially when it comes to healthcare. God, so in terms of what you think people need to do, maybe to get the word out or to understand about this commitment to America agenda, what do you think that is?
Well, I think you can just look at your representatives or your senator's record and see, did they vote for the Inflation Reduction Act or did they not? Because part of that was lowering the cost of prescription drugs for seniors and capping insulin prices at insulin copays at $35 a month. But it was Republicans in the US Senate that asked the parliamentarian to strip out the piece that would have lowered insulin costs for everybody. So they are not at all interested in lowering the costs of our care. They're only interested in increasing profits for big pharma.
Yep, that definitely seems to be something on their agenda. And that take seems to be especially dangerous. Yet so many people out there are still voting in alignment with the GOP, even though it is against their best interest. And so for those people out there, I guess, what would you say to them?
Just look at the records of how your people have voted, because they will say all kinds of things. It's an election season, but where it really comes down to it is how have they voted, and not a single Republican voted for the Inflation Reduction Act, and almost all the Republicans supported stripping away the Affordable Care Act a few years ago. And we know if they come back into power, they'll just try to do the same thing again.
And what was it about the Inflation Reduction Act that was so problematic in terms of healthcare?
Well, as for why Republicans voted against it, you'd have to ask them, but they just refuse to do their job, which is helping support the healthcare of all of us in favor of trying to score political points.
Yeah, no, that definitely is something that they very much is a common refrain from them. And so, as it concerns your work as the founder of the Voices of Healthcare Action, what are you focused on right now with the midterms coming up?
Well, I am coming to you from Concord, New Hampshire. Today was the first day of a nationwide bus tour with Protect Our Care. So we are going to over 20 states, many thousands of miles to tell the American people about what's in the Inflation Reduction Act and also spread the good news of how seniors are going to have their prescription drug copays capped at $2,000 a year, that Medicare is finally going to negotiate lower drug prices. Affordable Care Act policies will remain affordable for the next 3 years. And there's so much in this bill that people don't even know about yet, but when they hear about it, its approval just keeps rising.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. That is utterly fantastic. And hopefully people will fully appreciate who brought that to them and who wants to bring more to them. It's just a matter of ensuring that they're voting for people who actually want to make their lives easier, particularly as it concerns healthcare. And so as you do this bus tour, are you going to hit any particular regions of the United States?
Well, we're going all over. So we started in Maine this morning, and we're working our way down the coast. We have Connecticut and Pennsylvania, and down to West Virginia, and then I believe we keep going. We are hitting Wisconsin and Michigan and Ohio and Florida and Georgia, and all over. So hopefully you will see us on the road, and you can go to protectourcare.org/bus-tour to find out where we're going to be and when.
Fantastic. So in addition to providing people with information about what's available to them under these new bills, what else are you providing them with in terms of whether it's knowledge, resources, access?
Well, we have several great storytellers at each stop sharing their personal stories. We're talking to the local press to help spread the word about what's in this bill. And we also have some of the lawmakers that voted for it to come out and talk about what they supported and why. So today we had Representative Chris Pappas that talked about his vote, and we have more to come.
Fantastic. All right. So, in addition to that and other work that you are doing, what do you have, I guess, coming up on the forefront post midterms, maybe?
Well, I think a lot depends on you, the people watching. Who you vote for, who you elect will have a lot to do with what we can do next year, because this bill was a good start. We finally took on Big Pharma and won, so Medicare can negotiate some drug prices. But our work isn't done. We need to keep working to make sure that everyone can have affordable health care. And that means we need you watching to get out and vote for better people next year. So we have more to work with.
Absolutely. I think that's something that we can all get behind, and hopefully people will get there when they are voting in their ballot boxes. That's incredibly important. And I know it seems that on the horizon, if not, it's definitely here. But in terms of the healthcare with access to abortion, and that being such a pivotal thing that will hopefully get people out to vote this November, in terms of the healthcare options, is that also something that you're going to be tackling in your conversation?
Absolutely, because abortion is healthcare, and we've already seen heart-wrenching stories of a woman in Ohio that had cancer and couldn't get chemotherapy because of their abortion ban. I think there were multiple women in Texas that also shared their stories that there are all kinds of there are drugs out there for people with chronic illnesses that they can't get access to right now because of those abortion bans. There are women with complicated pregnancies. That ectopic pregnancies that can't get the care they need to thrive and even to stay alive because of these bans.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, hopefully they're starting to see what the GOP agenda really looks like in terms of being able to dictate how you want your body used and what you want to do with it, but also just to be able to access basic health care and to have those options available. And so hopefully people at the polls will actually show us that they do want to have healthcare options and they want opportunity. But that's one of those things we are going to have to hope for the best. But knowing the work that you're doing for Voices of Healthcare Action will hopefully give people the knowledge that they need to make the right decision for them. And so with all the people out there that you hope to touch their lives, to share knowledge and information with them as you go on this bus tour, what do you want people to be prepared for? What do you want them to know?
Well, you should take a look at the rules in your state because several states have changed their rules. Make sure that you're still registered to vote and look that information up now, because if there's any issue, you have time to fix it in time for the election. Look up the early voting or absentee voting rules in your state, because as we saw with the hurricane in Florida, things happen. And so if you are planning to vote on election day, things happen. And so if possible, you absolutely should vote early or vote by mail. Get your vote in time in case anything at all happens.
Yes, yes. And I really love that you brought that up, because Florida, God help them with Hurricane Ian, and I'm sure the recovery efforts that'll happen. We definitely want people to still come out and make sure that they vote. I know they are going through all sorts of disaster down there, and we're definitely keeping them in our thoughts and prayers without a doubt. But it's so incredibly important that they use their voice to determine the leadership that they want and the future that they want. And so for those out there who would love to get involved to support Voices of Healthcare Action, where should they go?
Well, first of all, if you're interested in getting involved in the bus tour, you should go to protectourcare.org/bus-tour for our schedule and our stops. You can follow me on Twitter @LPackard or Facebook or Instagram @Laura Packard Activist to hear more from the road and how you can get involved now and after the election.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us, Laura. We really appreciate all the work that you do and the message that you are sending.
Thank you.